Well, welcome back to Mike Ferry TV. As you can see, the hand hasn't changed. The attire is the same. We're going to record a series of our Mike Ferry TV ventures for you, and we're going to go through a lot of different topics. Last week, as you know, we talked about the quality versus quantity. One of the questions that came up at our big production retreat in San Diego, the end of January, and it came up quite often. Oh, by the way, we did something kind of fun. If you were at the production retreat in San Diego, on the second day, from 4:30 to 5:30, I did a giant Q&A for everybody in attendance. We had, I think, 2,290 people attend our production retreat, formerly known as our one-on-one coaching retreat. And we had this wonderful attendance. We had probably 12 to 1,500 people stay for the Q&A. And I asked them all to submit questions in writing. And we had a big bowl next to me on the stage, and I would pull one out, randomly read it, answer it, go to the next. By the way, for those that were there, I hope you're reading the fact that once a week, we actually had several hundred questions. So I'm answering 10 to 12 a week and sending it, emailing it to all those that attended. But one question came up a lot. I wrote it down. And it's interesting how often this question came up in this giant bowl of questions. Why are we not getting as much production and profit from the business that we want? Well, it's a generic question, but it's a very important question. Why are we, how about you and I, maybe there's a dozen of you watching this today in your office. Why are we not getting as much production? And I didn't take that one lightly. I actually started writing, and I came up with a rather long list, okay, of reasons why we don't get the production we want. And I thought today, because here we are now, ending up the first quarter, looking at a great second quarter, looking at a good third quarter. And remember, for those people in the Midwest and the Northwest and unfortunately the entire East Coast that have been bombarded with one of the toughest winters we've experienced in many, many years, you got to catch up now because that weather has created a little bit of havoc in productivity. So you can't be discouraged because your production is not where you want it to be. You have to be encouraged that you have the foresight and you have the drive and the ambition and the energy and the enthusiasm and the discipline to do something about it. Well, I want to look today at why we're not getting as much and how to make that happen in our favor. So any one of these answers could be the answer why you're not getting as much production and profit as you want. Don't look at your neighbors. This isn't for them. This is for you. So I wrote down a long list of why some of our even really good customers are struggling a little bit and how to solve the problem. So here's what I wrote down first. We're not as structured with our time and our business activities as we think we are. We're not as structured with our time and our business activities as we think we are. See, in real estate, there's only two basic activities: creating business, taking care of business. Now, the question is, are you spending a sufficient amount of time each day creating business? Prospecting, lead follow-up, pre-qualifying, going on appointments? Are you spending as much time as you think you are on that activity, those activities, and then the second side, taking care of it? So too often an agent takes a listing and then spends virtually a week, 10 days, 2 weeks servicing it to get it sold. And then as a result, their income is very sporadic because they are not staying involved in the activity of creating revenue. We're not as structured in our time. We're not as structured in our business activities. Think about the structure of those two to improve your business. The second thing I wrote down, we're simply not as good as we think we are, and it shows in our daily activities. We're simply not as good as we think we are, and it shows in our daily activities. I have to tell you, one of the best parts about real estate, and all you have to do is watch agents' behavior. Any agent in any city, any company, any county, any borough, any place in the world can say, I'm the best, I'm number one, nobody's better than me. And that's what agents say. There's nothing to back it up. This is a very ego-driven business. I talk to agents that do 12 deals a year, and they're number one in their company. They're number one in their office. This is not uncommon. Well, we're not as good as we think we are, and it shows in our daily activities. Most of us think we're pretty hot stuff. Now, compare yourself to others. Have you been to one of our retreats, one of our workshops, and met some of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that are doing 50, 75, 100, 200 transactions a year that we work with? Are you as good as all of them? Third thing I wrote down, we're still not working on our skills as much as we should. Guys and gals, we are involved in a skill-based business, period. I mean, you wouldn't go to a doctor that didn't have good skills. You wouldn't go to an attorney that didn't have good skills. If you're building a house, you wouldn't hire a contractor and a builder, an architect that didn't have good skills. Why would a seller hire a real estate agent that doesn't have good skills? See, if we're not working on our skills, which is the foundation that makes us good. Remember, you've heard me say this for the last 40 years, time and time again, that knowledge equals confidence and ignorance equals fear. If you're not working on that foundation to build the confidence, which is skills, you're not going to produce the way you want. I wrote down next, we have difficulty in maintaining the positive mindset that we should have. You know, we live in a very negative world. The wonderful man that does my production, we were talking earlier today, and I made a comment to him. I said, I don't read the newspaper. I don't watch the news. I've never have. Well, I did when I was 20. You know, at age 69, what's the point? It's all the same. I'm not going to fill my mind full of that negative crap all the time, like so many of you do. Well, I can be more positive than other people because I don't have the negative influence some of you have. If you're talking to a prospect, do you think they want to talk to a negative or positive person? If you're on a listing presentation, do they want to talk to a positive or negative person? Next thing I wrote down, we're not making the tough decisions fast enough. That's why our production isn't good. All right, now let's take an example. Should you have a daily schedule? Yes. Do you have one? No. Are you going to do it? Well, Mike, I'm getting ready to get going, to begin, to get moving, to do something maybe tomorrow. If I have the time, provided nothing comes up. Uh-oh, you're not making a decision. It's like one of the oldest jokes in leadership. Do you have trouble making decisions? Well, yes and no. Well, that doesn't work. Yes and no. There are certain decisions. Do you have a schedule? Are you spending time prospecting? Do you have a lead follow-up system? Do you have a good pre-qualifying system? Do you have a structured listing presentation? Do you have a good pre-listing package? These are decisions that we have to make. We have to make them today. Don't wait till next week. Make them today to improve productivity. Next, reason why business is not as good as we want it to be. We display too much uncertainty to our prospects. Now let's think about this. The prospect asks you a question. Okay, can you get my home sold? You know, I can do it. What kind of a response is that? Prospect says, can you get my home sold? Not until you sign the contract. Would you sign the contract right now, please? See, that's displaying the confidence. If we display even the least amount of uncertainty to a prospect, there's a good chance they're going to ask us to cut our commission, give us a short listing, ask for a higher price, or pick somebody else. That's what they do. Remember, every seller wants 3 questions answered. They want to know, A, what is my home worth? B, how long will it take to sell? And C, what are you going to do to get it sold? If you display uncertainty, they're going to pick somebody else. The next reason why our production isn't where it should be. We have a lack of intensity for extended periods of time throughout the day. Guys and gals, all right, we're supposed to have 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of enjoyment with ourselves and our family, 8 hours of work. Are you really intensely working 8 hours a day? If this camera was on you instead of on me, and I was watching the screen watching you, would I say, wow, that guy, that gal knows how to work? Or would I say, what in the world are you doing over there all the time? Watch, a lack of intensity. Do you time block? Do you have set aside time for your lead follow-up and your pre-qualifying and setting appointments? Do you have time set aside for making up the pre-listing packages? Do you have time set aside for the administration of your transactions, for calling back any of the calls that come to you? Do you have time set aside so you can be intense? Next thing I wrote down as why we're not as productive, a lack of consistency, listen carefully, a lack of consistency due to the fact we let drama and emotion into our daily business. Where does drama and emotion fit into the life of a real estate person? It doesn't. So why do real estate people become so emotional and traumatized? Because they don't do what they're supposed to be doing. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing every single day, you don't let drama and emotion into your business. Next thing I wrote down, a lack of enthusiasm and energy. when you're talking to people. People want to be around people that are excited. Are you excited? I'm really excited. I love what I do. Wait a minute, come on. You know, sometimes you have to pretend like you're excited. You're sitting on a listing presentation. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I want to tell you what your home's worth. I think it's worth about $295,000. Do you think anybody wants to list the person like that? Well, Mike, that's not fair. Okay, why is it not fair? Because that's my personality. Well, then get a new one. Order one from the Sears catalog, for goodness sakes. You don't have to behave like that. You can fake it. Everybody else does. Watch, I'm not always as excited about doing these little segments for you as I want to be, but guess what? When the camera goes on, it's party time. It's show time. I got to go to work. You've got to become more enthusiastic. And then the last thing I wrote down for today on why production isn't where it should be, a complete lack of versatility on our part. A lack of versatility. Versatility. I've talked about it for years with you, the ability to adapt to a variety of situations, a variety of people in a variety of ways. How much versatility do you really have? Or does everything have to be done your way? You walk into a cellar, we're going to do it my way. That's it. I don't care what the seller says, it's my way. Well, how much is that costing you? So I'm going to ask you to write down a question. Great question to write down. If any of these thoughts today apply to me, comma, what is this costing me in terms of production and income? If any. So let's be honest. You're going to have to go back and rewatch this week's TV probably 2 or 3 times, and you're going to have to write down all these thoughts, and then you're going to sit down with your broker, your manager, your coach, one of your cohorts, one of your peers that you respect, and simply say, this one is a problem, or this one I'm really good at, or this one's a problem, and then what is that costing me? Because guys and gals, one thing we know for sure, if you're committing errors in your real estate sales business and you're not taking the time to solve the problem with those errors, the errors will continue and escalate until either you are leveled off at a low level of productivity for the rest of your life or you leave the business. We don't want you to leave because if you know what to say and do, you can stay and succeed. You don't know what to say and do? Adios, hasta luego, bye-bye, you're gone. I'm looking forward to talking to you next week because I know you're not going anyplace but through the roof in productivity. Talk to you next week.